Hello, hello. This is Nancy Juetten, the host of the Learn More, Earn More show. I am also the leader of the Love Your Business, Love Your Life Inner Circle and someone who has built quite a reputation as the podcast guesting success expert. And what is the purpose of this show? The purpose of this show is to shine a light on expertise that can help you learn more to earn more and to go beyond what it is that I know so your whole world can expand. And today we're going to be talking about a very hot topic that's very complementary to podcast guesting. It's how to leverage speaking to fill your programs with five-star clients. If you want more five-star clients and you like to speak, this is the next best thing you can be doing to learn the how to and the know-how and the finesse to make that happen. And I have a very special guest who's joining me, who's also become a dear friend. Her name is Krista Martin. And Krista, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me, Nancy. I'm so excited to be here.
Yeah, I'm excited to have you here too because you're kind of a big deal.
Well, thank you.
MBA, CPCC, PCC, and president and founder of Make Your Mark. You're a sought after speaker and business strategist who teaches clients how to fill their coaching programs through speaking and growing their business to multiple six figures.
Yes, it is so fun.
Awesome.
Thank you.
And another thing that I know about you is that through building and selling your first side business with 12 years in corporate and scaling your own business to seven figures, you discovered how keeping things simple allows you to create faster results and to have more fun. I love that.
Yes, that's the whole purpose of running our business that I think we can lose sight of if we're not careful too. We get busy doing all the things and we think, what was the initial purpose here? Is to have fun, work with awesome people and do all the things outside of our business too.
Right. And speaking of the things outside of your business, me being a dog lover myself, tell us a little bit about this important thing that you do with homeless animals and shelters, because I think that's really exciting that you've got room in your calendar to make good happen in this way.
Oh, thank you for asking about that. And I started a company, it's called the Unleash Project. And really what our focus is helping animals helping animals, but also helping the shelters to do better. And I really believe that, nobody wants to have animals needlessly euthanized. And obviously the animals don't. I don't think, people intentionally want that, but really working together in a broken system to help facilitate whether through systems, even getting more fosters, but helping to really solve the problem through a holistic approach versus how it's been done so far, really very kind of siloed efforts. And sometimes those siloed efforts, sabotage each other, but really making sure we're all rowing in the same direction. And we have two rescue dogs as well. So you may hear them barking in the background. They are not the most well behaved. They're very cute, but not always the most well behaved.
Well, I love a pet or a person who has the courage to raise her voice and make her impact from any stage, whether it's live or virtual, like right here on the Learn More, Earn More show. So, what we're talking about today is how to leverage speaking to fill your programs with five-star clients. So, what are some common mistakes that coaches make when trying to speak to fill their coaching business?
Oh gosh, I feel like we could probably talk about this for 2 hours, just this one question. I would say with some of the question or some of the mistakes that I see, and I want to totally name up front too, any of the mistakes that I share, I'm not standing on way above everybody making mistakes and saying, oh, look at these people. They're all mistakes that I made myself. And so learn the hard way through them too. The first one is waiting to get asked to speak. So they feel like I built it, they should come, or I'm an expert in maybe it's executive coaching or leadership development or speaking to grow your business. People will reach out to me. And while I think that's a great thought, really, I look at it from a different perspective of our business is waiting for us to lead it. And by that, I mean, we reach out and share with groups. Guess what? I've got a great talk that could offer great value to your people. So really initiating and reaching out and not waiting, because waiting, one, is no fun, and two, it's very unpredictable. But when we're reaching out, there are groups that are actively looking for speakers on a weekly or monthly basis. So being able to reach out that way. And then,
Since you brought that up, I was at a eWomen Network Success Summit just this week in Phoenix, Arizona. It was a fabulous event. And I set the intention that I was going to connect and meet with people that could open doors that I could kick open myself.
yeah,
And I was introduced to this lovely woman, and she says, I lead this empowerment circle for women, and this is what we're all about, and da 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 da. And we're always looking for speakers. And I said, well,
yeah,
what do you know? I'm so glad we're meeting.
absolutely.
This is something that I talk about. So I think that setting the intention that you're not going to
Yes.
wait for people to ask, but that you're going to go places with the intention that you're going to put yourself forth.
Yes. And share, I've got value, and your people would enjoy it. And, being willing to go first, can feel scary at first. In fact, it most likely will feel scary, but after you start doing it and you realize that you don't die, just like standing on a stage for people that are saying, wait, speaking, are you kidding? I might die. You realize you don't die and you say, okay, that was actually, I might admit, a little bit fun, and you'll get the response, oh my gosh, we've been looking for someone on this topic, or that kind of thing, and see how it can be a big win for everybody.
So the first mistake is waiting to be asked and not being proactive. What are some other mistakes?
Yes. Another one would be not having a proven process to follow that activates your audience versus just educates your audience. And again, I did this very well, or I guess I did it exactly wrong, is probably a better way of saying it, meaning that when I started, I was educating the heck out of everybody just because I wanted to teach them everything I'd ever learned on the subject. And there's a way to deliver value, and I know you know this as a speaker as well, that meets them where they are, serves them, gives them an idea, a new thought, a new way of thinking, but it doesn't have to give them everything because then they'll feel overwhelmed. And to also inspire action. So being willing to, through having a process or whatever mechanism, someone would lean on, and we teach a process on this, but really having where you create positive tension. And I know most people are probably throwing things at their screen right now saying, I don't want to create positive tension, but
Now, what
tension
is positive
inspires.
tension? Like, how do you
Yes.
describe that? What is that?
Well, it's that tension that gets us to act, where we maybe sit with the thought of, maybe you're a relationship coach and you're having your audience think about, well, what's the impact of, not investing in your relationship, 6 months from now or a year? For someone that is maybe has a relationship that's on the brink of breaking, or, something like that, and they think, wow, that would be painful to not do the work or to shift my relationship. So that's what I talk about with creating that positive tension. And so I call it positive tension because it's in service of what that person wants. It's not saying buy today and you get a free set of knives. Nobody likes that kind of tension. That's ick more than tension. But it really is helping them see, wow, if I don't choose something differently, I'm going to be in the same place or perhaps a worse place as it relates to my relationship, finances, business, whatever area it is they work on. And so really making sure they have a process. And so I would say the mistake is not having a process for your talk and just getting up there and overeducating, or the spaghetti approach, but knowing that, CEOs, successful coaches all have processes. They have systems in their business for creating results.
Way back in the day, I consider myself a fairly creative entrepreneur, and I had a coach say to me, you need to have a process for guiding this thing from step A, B, C, D, and
Yeah.
E. And I remember saying way back in the day that this is so intuitive for me. It's so natural for me.
Yeah.
I don't know how I could possibly put it into a process. And he just held me to a higher standard and said, I want you to name and claim what this is and how it's
Yes.
done and what result it brings about. Because when you're able to explain it in a step-by-step fashion, other people are able to embrace it and get
Yes.
excited about their stunning result. And so he forced me to do it. And I was so glad that he did because I
Yeah.
just wanted to bring this up for any of the creative entrepreneurs that might be watching. Yeah, you've got great intuition and you've got great skills
Yes.
and you've got a great way of showing up in amazing people. But when you can spell it out, you can probably go to the bank more readily.
Yes. Oh, absolutely. And more predictably. Or I like to, I mean, I'm a systems geek, so I love systems and processes. We could talk about that for months. We won't, I promise. But is to really think about, though, when you have a system, you can also evaluate, wow, that talk generated 10 clients. That talk generated no clients. What's different? And you can actually look and say, oh, I didn't do this part or I did do that part. And you actually have something to evaluate versus, well, I don't know. I just kind of get up and speak, or shoot from the hip kind of thing. So it does, and I love how you said held you to a higher standard. And that is and really elevating yourself to say, this is a business. We have a way we do things here. It's not spaghetti.
It's either the spaghetti against the wall extreme or I intend to be world class in every move that I make. And then
Yes,
there's everything in between. But if we aim for world class, we will have world class.
100%. Yes, absolutely.
Okay, so
And
mistakes. So
yeah.
we're not being we're waiting to be asked. We're not having a proven process. We're not deploying positive tension. What about PowerPoint? Do you have a point of view about
Oh
PowerPoint?
gosh. I love PowerPoint. So I am a huge fan when used correctly. And I think that part needs to be super underlined. I have many clients that speak and despise PowerPoint. So they don't use it, which is great for them as well, because that's not their style. But definitely images, even I like to think about how do I connect people energetically to the content through an image, so it could be a smiling person that they achieved something, if that's what you're trying to convey with the slide. But absolutely minimal content, or as minimal as you can get away with. When I review clients' slides, I'm always saying, okay, I want you to know one of the questions in my mind is always what words can we remove? That's
What words?
always something I'm thinking of. What's unnecessary here that we can get rid of? Because the worst thing is to be one at a presentation where you just feel like, oh my gosh, I have to read 48 things. And then what happens? A person is, disconnected from it. But I do think, bright colors, professionally designed, or at least have it look professionally designed. You can do great stuff in Canva and some of those AI programs as well. But you want your logo. I mean, really having it look, I always challenge clients to say, if their goal is a seven figure or whatever level of success in their business, have the presentation look like you're already at that level.
Hmm.
Don't show up with the presentation of, oh, I put this together last night, or my, kindergartner built it for me, because we really want to show up professionally. And that's a big place I see people make the mistake. I mean, even putting your logo on each slide in the same spot just looks professional versus kind of a different place every slide. So there's certain things you can do like that that really up level the experience for the participant.
So much value being dropped already. Every single mistake has what you should do and said. So good. Well,
Oh,
let's
thank you.
so let's I know there's plenty more mistakes, but let's
Yeah.
also talk about there are some folks, coaches, consultants, experts who are brilliant at what they do, but they don't yet have a big audience, or some of them may not have any audience. So, what can you do if you're in that situation to grow and create momentum?
Oh, I love that stage. That is an exciting stage. I know being in that stage can feel like, oh crap, I'm, behind the eight ball, but you're absolutely not. In fact, we grew a business from $40,000 to over 220 in 12 months with about 10 people on our email list. And I've jokingly said they were all my relatives and friends. But what I did in that time, and this is why I'm so passionate about teaching the same model to other people, is I found groups that were already gathering my ideal client that were looking for speakers on a regular basis. And then I came up with one talk, and this part's really important too, that really spoke to a problem my ideal client felt like they were trying to solve. So it drew them in through that title. And then I presented the same talk. So we were talking about right before we jumped on the unsexy, house repairs that you have to do. But I say it's unsexy. Part of the formula that I share is that it was one talk. So I was literally same talk twice a month, for that entire year. And we created huge leaps in growth. So you can absolutely find groups, leverage other people's audiences that are already gathering your person. No big list required. And this was very early in my business. So it's not like I was some big name or, people had heard, oh, of course it's Krista, she's been running her business a long time. It was really when I was out saying, hey, I've got some value. Do you want some? Would your audience be served, with this topic? And then I did both webinars or in person. And so really giving yourself permission to reach out to groups, whether associations, that was something I poo-pooed too. I thought associations, that's not very sexy. Who wants to talk at an association? That's where we were speaking, was at associations. And a lot of times I love that angle too, because they lovingly bribe their members to attend by giving continuing education credits for attending your talk. So if it solves a problem, they get credits. People are excited to show up.
I love
And yeah, so it doesn't have to be complicated and you don't have to have a huge email list. You can build that while you're doing that if that's something you choose to do too.
So I'm sure that since people want to learn more, earn more, and many people want to get known and get paid, when you were starting out with the 10 people on your list who were mostly family and friends, were you just welcoming the opportunity to speak for free with the idea that you could extend an offer or an invitation at the close of your talk? Tell us about how you approach that and also navigating some organizations say you can't sell, you can't make an offer, these kinds of things.
Yes.
How do we navigate that sticky wicket and have it still work out?
And these are such great questions. I love all of these because there can be huge stumbling blocks. So I love that you're asking these. So thank you. What we recommend is, especially when you're starting or giving, and I say 45 minutes to even 90-minute talk, that your call to action is an invitation to a conversation. It's not sign up to be a client. Here's my $10,000 coaching program. It's not, buy my book, that kind of thing, but it's simply an invitation to a conversation. The reason we do that is one, typically, not always, but typically groups are appreciative of that because they say, wow, Nancy's going to get on the call with 10 people, you know, for no cost to them. That's a win for our audience. So they usually are okay with that. And two, it's not a big pitch that has to be, 16 slides and this is what you get and only this price today. So there have been some groups that said I couldn't even make that offer to a conversation. And I, at first, would still say yes to them. Now I don't do those just because I've learned that, if I'm talking for free, I'm giving value, and nobody is forced to take a call. Of course, that's not required. But yet the invitation is there if someone says, wait, this really resonates. I want to talk to Krista about working together, then they can have that free call. So I do recommend, I guess another mistake would be too is people get up there and they start really pitching to a bigger offer than the amount of trust that they've built with the audience. So, and I know you've spoken on big stages as well. And, so you've seen people do huge pitches, and I've pitched to a $30,000 program, but I had a 3-day live event that led up to it. It wasn't just a one talk. And so it's really making sure our ask or our invitation is aligned with that trust that we built.
So that reminds me of a story from way back in the day. Constant Contact invited me and several other speakers to come and give a talk for Small Business Saturday or something.
Yeah.
And it was May 5th. And the guy that came on before me delivered this amazing talk for about 30 minutes. And then he downshifted into false urgency and all of these other kinds of things. And I was watching the audience, and he said something. Now, I don't know how many of these I brought, and I don't know how many will be
Yeah.
left. and I'm only offering it today at this price. And so if this is exciting to you, I'm inviting you to jump out of your chair and run to the back of the room and da 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 da. And I saw these people watching their clock and
Oh
crossing their
gosh.
arms.
Yeah.
And I think to myself, I'm the gal that comes on after this guy, plus the heavy Mexican lunch, which is going to make
Oh,
everybody.
yes.
And so the coda on this thing was I got to that part of my presentation and I thought, how am I going to turn lemons into lemonade? And I said, now, I wrote this book, Bye Bye Boring Bio, and it helps people solve this particular problem. And I brought a bunch of them with me today, and I also make them readily available at my website at whatever link it is.
Yes.
I would be so honored to welcome your purchases if that would serve you. And the big benefit of doing it
Yeah.
today is I'll pose for a photo with you and I'll even sign the book with a
Yeah.
happy note inside. So that's who I am. That's what I'm here to do. I'm so glad we were here
Yeah.
today. Thank you very much. And
I
that
love
was
it.
my very first experience with the table rush because people actually rushed back because I
Yes.
didn't say, oh, limited time only. I don't know how many
No.
I have. It's going to be a real dicey situation. That just didn't land for me. So I just did the equal and opposite.
Yes. Oh, and I love how you said that you said, here's the benefit of doing it today. And if you don't want it today, you can still get it on my website. If I run out today, it's not, the world is ending kind of thing. Because that really deters, I mean, that defeats the whole purpose of, I believe your reason for being up there and my reason is to connect and create value. And if someone's inspired, great, let's take the next step. But most people aren't going to want to take the next step. And I still want them to leave saying, wow, I'm thinking about this thing totally different because I heard Nancy speak, or this is a new perspective, or, I learned the 4 steps to whatever kind of thing as a result too. So I love that you did that and how beautiful and what a beautiful contrast as well to the gentleman that was before you.
Yeah, I kind of wonder what he thought, but that's another matter. I want to ask you a
Yeah.
follow-up question to something you said a moment ago. You said if you're at a live event, if you're at an event where you're speaking for free and you're extending a call to action to a conversation, but not a big pitch, you snuck in there that, oh, 10 people could come to a call. So are you suggesting that tell us more about that, because that seems like a highly leveraged way to talk to a lot of people without consuming 10 individual spots on your calendar.
Yes, and this is a big part of the process that we teach too, but it is really making that intentional. And so it positions you as well. Some people will make the mistake of saying, hey, here's a link to my calendar, just jump on, which is fine. And that's one way to do it. But then, if you're speaking in front of 500 people, your calendar could be filled very quickly with wrong fit people or people that I hate when people say, I want to pick your brain because that doesn't sound very nice. And it's also not a very good use of, the time. So the way I recommend doing it is saying, do limit it to some amount. And you can always, of course, if you get 11 people that apply and they're really great, there's no law saying you can't extend the opportunity to that 11th person as well, if you choose to do that. But we actually have people go to an application. And you can see an example of the application actually on my website if you go to makeyourmark.com/strategy session. And that will just show you the questions that we ask people. So, if you're looking to model what you may want to ask, we find that really valuable because it asks them to invest a few minutes of their time. So it shows their interest, and it's not just, I want to pick Krista's brain, or I'm bored on Tuesday. Maybe I'll talk to Krista. And then we actually receive it. You can have it set up different ways with technology, but the way we do it is then it's approved by us to make sure, this is a right fit for what we're doing. And, I did have someone at one point say, I want to get a divorce, and I said, well, I wish you the best with that. And that's not an area that I specialize in. So I know these 3 great, relationship or divorce coaches. I'll send you there, but it helps you to make sure, one, they're invested somewhat. 2, they're going to actually follow your process or way of doing it. If they're not even willing to fill out a form, chances are they're not your right fit person. And then it also allows you to control your calendar. And if you did have 30 people apply, great. Maybe you decide to do 10 this month and 10 next month, or however you want to do it, you have that option, but it creates the urgency as well. that it's not just, oh, I'll sit on this and think about it for months. It's okay, I'm feeling activated. I want to take action. And she said there's 10 spots. It just kind of invites people, inspires them a little bit more to take that action. Is that kind of what you were asking? I want to make sure.
Yeah, well, I was remembering something that Alex Mondosian said many, many years ago. He's been called the Warren Buffett of the internet, and
Okay.
he makes a very fine living serving people in powerful ways. But his calendar gets very full very quickly, and so one of the things that he started to do was these group calls where, if there was
Oh, that's
20
interesting.
people that could come to a call, I think he said, a one-on-one may to some people feel like a sales conversation, but one to many feels like an exchange of content that can serve people. And there are some people that are lurkers that don't tend to speak up, and there are other people that love to ask questions. And so by doing some kind of a leveraged group Q&A call, he
Yeah.
could he could address the same content in a one to more than one manner. And if the right people were qualified, they could go to the application button and see about going the next step. But I love that idea for
That's
people who are further along.
Yes, I think that's a great way to do it too. I had never heard that idea of that group call, but what a awesome way to honor many people when your calendar, we don't have 80 hours a day for calls. We also have other things to do, in business as well. So that's
Mhm.
really interesting.
So let's talk a little bit about the key elements to include in your talk that help you get the client every time.
Oh, yes. And of course, this goes into the formula and the kind of strategy part of it. And so, one of the parts, and I'll kind of just go through them high level and quickly, but is really this validation where we want the audience to say, oh my gosh, I'm in the right spot. And you can do that several different ways, but it feels good when I say, oh yeah, this talk is for me. I'm here for the right reasons. This is solving a problem that's relevant to me. Then we also want to do, I call it credibility and connection, where we really tell, if you want to call it your hero's journey, but you really connect with the audience. Like, for example, I'll tell my story a lot of times, and I was in corporate before running my own business. Many times, many, many times when people hear me speak, they'll say, oh, I resonate. I'm in a corporate escapee too, and that just makes them say, oh, I'm kind of like Krista. They have something in similar to me. So think about what are the relevant parts of your story to tell. And you want to make sure you answer this question and really, really clearly answer it. Why can I be trusted as an expert? You want to answer that question. Most people skip over it, or, they'll also skip over. I encourage people to actually say, I'm Nancy Juetten and I work with, people, or like do your elevator pitch. So it's very clear there's no questions. And then we also do the content. We do seeding, which is SEEDING, and I spell it because I've had people think I said seating before, and they say, "So when you have people seat?" And what I mean by that is we let them know, "Hey, I'm going to have an opportunity for you to take this deeper at the end of the presentation, or I'll won't leave you hanging if you're inspired to go deeper. I will share with you how you can get a free guide." So we set the expectations, which is good on multiple levels. First one is that it makes us actually do what we said we'll do, which is make the offer. It also, when you set expectations, people feel better and they're not upset when you do have, here's the guide I promised I would give you. It's just managing those expectations. So then, and I mentioned the content that we teach, as well. And then the last two sections are really about creating that call to action in a way where we kind of remind them of why they showed up. So reconnect them to that pain or that challenge that, really inspired them to attend. And then I like to say we give them two choices. And you can either, it's in essence, you can either keep doing what you've been doing and stay where you are, which is a great choice for many people. It's great if you're patient, being in the same place in 6 months doesn't upset you. It feels good. Awesome. Or you can take new action. So those are the two choices that I give them. And then that new action is leading to that opportunity to have a conversation together. But it helps people to really realize too that not choosing is actually still choosing, because which is part of that positive tension that allows people to see, if you think about your health, for example, a health coach I worked with, she said she asked a gentleman, and this was in a sales call, but she said, well, what's the impact of not taking action? And I said, that I might not be able to walk my daughter down the aisle when she gets married next year. And that when she told me that, I still get chills thinking that, but that's where and then she said he signed up right away. And it wasn't that she did some dirty tricks. It was that she simply said, what's the impact of inaction? And he said, oh my gosh, I can't tolerate that. I have to do something new to be in a new place.
Oh, that's
So
so good. What is the impact of inaction? That is so good.
yes, people forget to take that into consideration. They think, oh, it's $100 to buy this. That's the cost, but it's really what's the cost of not doing the thing.
Now, I want to ask another question, and I want you to tell us a little bit more about your personal story here. The question is how can one talk lead to multiple six figures in income and loads of awesome clients and so much more? That's the first question. And the second
Okay.
question that's a follow-up for that is you revealed in the green room and also in other conversations that there was a seven-figure leap that you made, and then somewhere along the line you dialed things back to have a different kind of success. And so I'd like you to
Yeah.
address both of those questions if you might.
Yes, and more great questions. And you saw me probably take notes because I want to make sure I stay on target with your questions. And so when you're thinking about, how to take one talk to get multiple, high ticket client enrollments or coaching programs, however you look at it, that is exactly what I did the year that we grew from $40,000 when I was let go from my corporate job. And I said, okay, I'm all in, I'm doing this thing. And I found groups gathering my person. I had the email list of very few people. And I created a talk that really spoke to the problems or one of the big problems my ideal clients were facing. And then I did that talk on repeat. I challenged myself. It's fun giving yourself homework or goals to do at least twice a month, that I was giving that talk to groups that were already gathering. And I mean, sometimes when I would do it by webinar, and the way I teach too, I do the same exact talks in person as I do via webinar, because really it's just a different model or different mode, but and you bring different energy, of course, and you don't wear your Zoom mullet, which I call it looking nice from the waist up and your comfy pants on the bottom kind of thing. That's not recommended in person, but making sure that
I've never heard
that
that before.
well, that's what I always think about that. I've even had calls before. I say, raise your hand if you've got a Zoom mullet on right now. And it's so funny because the people that look the sharpest up top always are like, yeah, PJ pants or, gym shorts on the bottom. So it's just kind of a fun thing. But really knowing, I would say the key is knowing what are the core problems that my coaching or my consulting or my expertise can help solve that's really important to my ideal client. And how do I put that in the title so that they say, I have to be there? So one, you're attracting your right fit people then, even though the group is already gathering coaches, for example, who is my ideal client. I want coaches that want to leverage speaking. If someone says, Krista, I want to leverage Facebook ads to grow, fantastic strategy. I don't want, not that I don't want them to come to my talk, but they wouldn't be a right fit client for me if that's the main strategy they want and they're not interested in speaking. So being willing to, I'd say this lovingly, to offend people with your title, like that Facebook ads person would say, I'm not going to Krista's talk about speaking because, that's not relevant to me. But making sure that that talk is dialed in. And then every single talk that I gave, this call to action was sign up for a call with me if you would like to talk about, if we might be a match to work together. And that was the year our business grew from 40 to 220. It's exactly what we teach our clients. It was one association primarily. I did some local speaking too, but I loved that I could do it webinar or in person. And so the unsexy part was that it was the same talk on repeat. My walls, our dogs, my family could probably do the talk for you. They probably heard it enough. But the sexy part was the results and not having to create 30,000 different topics. It was just one that was really dialed in and that worked.
I love that. I love that. Now, if you don't mind sharing, you
Yeah.
went to the seven-figure mark and then you made some recalibration. Can you share a little bit about that?
Yes, and I want to make sure that whenever I share my personal experience with it, that I don't ever want to sound like seven figures isn't great if that's someone's goal or anything like that. Whatever anyone's goal is, fantastic. This was just my personal realization going through the process and, building to seven figures. I remember the day I found out from our fractional CFO that I'd crossed the seven-figure mark. And I must pictured it with like emojis everywhere, like confetti flying from the ceiling. And it was funny because I looked around my office and I thought, my office looks just the same as it did yesterday when I was a six-figure earner, and now I'm a seven-figure earner. And it was like I expected my whole life to be different. And being very, very candid, I realized for me that hitting seven figures was a threshold or a marker that I thought I had to hit for success. I didn't realize it at the time, but that's how I was defining success. And then I realized, okay, for me, there had been a lot of stress, a lot of frustration. We had full-time team members, a lot of things that I didn't love that we had built. And so I did over the next couple of years what I called creative destruction, where I only kept the things in my business that brought joy and really looked at everything. And I looked at the clients I most love serving, the stuff I most love teaching. And that's where we even really whittled it down from being more of a general business, where we could teach you all the systems, all the mindset, and we do that as needed, but to really saying, I love teaching about speaking. That's where I get my joy. I don't love necessarily helping people figure out blogging to success. I mean, I can help them with that with strategy, high level, but I really wanted to claim my lane. And so found like the way that I do goal setting and encourage clients to do too is to look at what do you want your business to pay for this year? Like, is it a move to Arizona? Is it a trip to visit your friend Nancy in Arizona? Is it, a million different things? Is it paying for like my children go to private school, paying for that? But to figure the number based on what the business can give you or you want it to give you, and then figure out what the business model is that fits and reaches that goal. Versus to me, I said that number means success, but instead I say define success, what it looks like, and quantify as best we can dollar wise and then say, okay, that's what my goal is. And, we're not a seven-figure business today intentionally. Our profit margins are higher, our joy is higher, it's just a better fit model for where we are. And I get to help dogs. I get to do all the things versus feeling it's much more a choice than a job is what I had created for myself. So I know that was a big
Well, if I
long
had a
answer.
ticker tape parade or a trumpet to sound, I would be sounding it for you right now because what you were just describing is what I call, crafting success on your own best
Yeah.
terms. And sometimes the ticker tape parade that you were expecting comes in the most unexpected ways, which is to have white
Yeah.
space on your calendar to enjoy your nonprofit work or spend more time with
Yes.
your kids and to have more than enough money to fuel a lifestyle that suits you.
Yes. Yes. And it's so much more freeing than how I had external people without realizing it deciding this was success. I get to decide this is success for our family. And then how do we fill that? And there's not a right or wrong, but then it's so much more exciting to work towards that goal than somebody else's goal. And I might have shared with you, when I was going through this process, I listed some of my values on my dry erase board and I said, this is how I'm prioritizing. And it's funny, I have up there adventure and I have a picture, it's good reason I'm not an artist, but drawn with, dry erase markers, mountains. And, I think about we've taken several trips actually to Arizona, to Colorado. That's the stuff that lights me up. And I didn't even realize at the time that part of me, I just said, no, it's in quest of the dollar versus now it's about the adventure that we get to have or,
Oh, I
how that
love
all.
that so much. I love that so much. Now,
Well, thank you.
yeah, that's just exactly what I stand for. I think we can be our own wizard. We don't have to wait for
Yes.
someone else to give us permission to create the life and the business that we want. But if you choose something that's aligned with your values and it's something that
Yeah.
lights you up, there's no stopping you. And that's clearly what's happening with your business, Make Your Mark. Now, you have a special
Thank you.
gift that you have
Yes.
to bring to our audience. Tell us about it and put a lot of sizzle in the steak so people run and not walk to
Yes,
go get it.
absolutely. And thank you. We created this awesome guide called 21 Overlooked Stages to Fill Your High Ticket Offers. And you can find it at makeyourmark.com/21 stages. So, like the actual numbers. And that will take you right to the guide. But really, it's helping you if you're saying, I don't even know where to start to look to get booked. I don't know where people are looking for speakers. This guide will give you 21 ideas, but it'll really what I want you to do is pick out one or two of those and then go all in on them. You don't need to do all 21, but there'll be a few that jump out and you're like, that looks kind of interesting. And when you look at it, there'll be I do suggest really looking at like the associations and some of the other places that you might poo-poo. You'll naturally poo-poo them because they don't feel sexy. Give yourself a chance to still look at those because many times those are the gold mines that lead to the big results. So allow it to be unsexy at first for the sake of creating those sexy results.
I love that. So that's makeyourmark.com/21 stages.
Yes, like 21 stages, the number.
Great.
So,
I'll be sure to
yes.
put that in the show notes. And then I also want to say that uh, this whole journey that you've been on to grow your business to a significant level and then to recalibrate your business to be right on point with where you want to be in life. This is what I call being your own wizard. And
Yeah.
I think sometimes we forget to step into that. So I'm just going to tap in a little gift of my own in the show notes. It's called
Yeah.
the Wizard Syndrome Breakthrough Checklist. And
Uh,
it's a checklist designed to help you figure out whether or not you're trying to assign responsibility for your success to someone else, or if you're willing to take 100% responsibility for your success right now. And I think you
yeah.
might find that when you combine what you learn from the Wizard Syndrome Breakthrough Checklist with the 21 stages, you might find yourself booking yourself on a couple of uh, really great audiences consistently and welcoming exponential growth in your income. And wouldn't that be a wonderful outcome,
Yeah. Oh,
right?
absolutely. And then I love how you shared that, and that is so powerful when you are the what do you say? You are your own wizard. Is
Be
that
your
right? Am I
own
saying it right?
wizard.
Or be your own wizard. Yes, and we forget that we have that power.
We've
And
had the
how
power
cool.
all along. Dorothy told us that in
Yes.
Wizard of Oz. We
Yes,
had the
you're
power
exactly
all
right.
along. Is there any
Yes.
final point you'd like to make to encourage people to make speaking a powerful vehicle to grow to grow their business to attract those five-star clients?
I would say just if you're called to share your message from a stage, follow that intuition, follow that energy because that's your magic special sauce. And many people aren't called to share in that way. So really being able to trust and lean into that and then try out the stages big and small. And I mean, I've had an audience of 10 people and 3 or 4 became high ticket clients. That's a success. So don't let big numbers be something that holds you back either.
That's so good. And I want to tag along. You know, there are many people that are growing to scale where they want to touch the masses. And there's some people that prefer a more boutique style business where they can go deep with a jewel box of amazing clients. Either choice is an important choice for each person to make him or herself without any judgment. But if you're
Yeah.
for the one and not for, if you're for the few and not for the many, own it. If you're for the
Yeah.
many and not for the few, own that too.
Yeah.
But don't be wishy-washy, you
Yes.
know?
Yeah. And no matter what, have fun doing it. Give yourself permission to not take it too serious and have a blast doing it. And, it's a fun adventure we get to go on building our business.
Well, Krista Martin, it's been such a pleasure to have you on the program from Make Your Mark. Thank you so much for joining me. If you are watching live or by replay, my name is Nancy Juetten. I would be honored for you to subscribe to the YouTube channel so that you are always first to hear about these amazing experts that I bring to you so you can learn more to earn more. And if there's more that I can do to support your success, well, you know where to find me. So thank you so much. It's been a fabulous show, and I can't wait for it to be seen, heard, and celebrated by many, many people who are moved by the message and inspired to act. So thank you so much, and bye-bye for now.